I'm going to tell you today about a creative metric that you are not tracking. In fact, you've never even heard of it, but it is now honestly my very favorite metric for ad creative in existence. It's FPAR, F-P-A-R. I'm going to tell you all about it right now and why I think it is one of the keys to your creative performance. I think this will really help. All right, in this second, I'm going to show you a set of data that absolutely blew my mind when I saw it. I was in a meeting recently with AC Gardner, the CEO at Behind the Scenes Studio. Behind the Scenes is the creative production team that I work with closely at AJF Growth. So Behind the Scenes, BTS, they are my team, but they also have a service that goes way beyond just AJF Growth to do design and editing for a lot of people. And this is their internal metric that they have been tracking for how they measure the performance of their designers and editors. And it fits into something really important that I've been thinking so much about for how you generate good quality creative at scale. So I'm going to show you the metric or the report right now, because I lost my mind when I saw this. Okay. I absolutely lost my mind. So here it is. Okay. If you're listening and not watching, you may want to pull this up somewhere where you can see it, but I'm going to try and talk through it. Okay. So it's called the Video Team Performance Dashboard. And this dashboard has a whole bunch of metrics on it, including FPAR, which I teased in the intro. Okay. But what this is a dashboard of creative metrics, except all of the creative metrics, every one of them is not actually about the performance of the ad in the ad account. It is all about the performance of the design and editing team in the process of creating ads that they send off to clients, right? So internally at AJF Growth, this is my team versus they would have the same thing for any report for any client that they're working with. And it's worth noting here, btsstudio.co, they're a sponsor of this podcast. So this is not a sponsored episode. This is just literally came out of our work. btsstudio.co if you want this kind of work done for you. So go check them out. Link is in the show notes. Okay. So anyway, this thing has so much to it that I absolutely loved. Okay. The first thing you'll see is these giant percentages: team hit rate, throughput, and utilization. Okay. Hit rate here is actually a little bit confusing, because hit rate, normally people mean that by like ads that got spent in the ad account. But in this case, the metric, and probably the metric should change the name actually because of the confusion. But the metric actually is like a number of ads that got approved. Okay. So in this case, it's 78%. Now, of course, that goes up over time with revisions, et cetera. But there you go. Throughput is like number of ads. The hit rate is number of ads that got approved per revision request, right? So if you send through an ad and it's one round of revisions, okay, so the ad would go through, a round of revisions and then get sent out to the clients, that would be a 50% hit rate. So there you go. Okay, so because it gets one ad and went through two edits, one first initial edit and then a second edit. Okay, but then throughput is like 100%. Did we actually make the ads that were given to us? Concepts received versus concepts completed. And then utilization, which is in this case 102%. That utilization is a reference to how much of the editor's time actually got used total on average in terms of the allotted time versus the actual time. And so that's like just the baseline, right? So it's all metrics about like how much of the editor's time was used, what was their total throughput, and what was the team hit rate. And then there are actual raw numbers in here too, like how many ads got made, etc. On top of that, you go a layer down and it's all complexity weighted. And this is so awesome, okay? Because, people come to me all the time and say like, well, how many ads do I need to make for my account to work? Or people will say in our sales process, like, how many ads will you deliver to us? And I never know how to answer the question. In fact, I often resist answering the question because making a 4-minute long form explainer video is very different than making a socially native still image where you sort of slap an Instagram caption on a phone quality image, right? Both of them have a place in your marketing mix, but they take very different amounts of time to produce. And so if I say I'm going to make you 2 ads, but one of those is extremely simple and one of those is extremely complex, then you didn't really learn anything from the number 2. Okay. So what the team is doing is looking at the complexity weighted hit rate. So you can see actually what percentage of ads, what was our hit rate on various levels of complexity, and how many ads are there's going to be raw numbers of number of ads by complexity, etc. This is a critical thing if you want to understand how to utilize your team's time. And over time, of course, what you can do all kinds of other things with that. I'm going to resist saying more about that because I'm going to talk more about it in a second. And then we get to FPAR, which is, like I said, my favorite thing. So FPAR on the bottom of this is first pass approval rate. It is the percentage of ads that were approved with 0 edit requests from the client or from the AJF growth internal growth strategist or creative strategist. Okay, and what you see here is that at April, only 17% of ads were approved on for the first pass. By September, that number's up to 71%, and it's pretty slow and steady up and to the right, like consistently. It goes from 17% to 30% to 41 to 37 to 61 to 71. So increasing number of ads are approved on the first pass. That is awesome. The reason I love this metric so much is because re-edits, every time you have to re-edit an ad, even if the edits are small, it requires the round of revisions. It requires a download and an upload, and somebody has to edit, and somebody has to use the time to re-edit an ad instead of to go and make a new ad. And so it slows down your ad creation process. And this is the thing. Forget any one of these metrics, okay? And by the way, for a long time, I've sort of fetishized first pass approval rate, but I've never been able to measure it. And I love it because I hate the idea of revisions slowing us down. It almost always suggests to me some kind of a break in the briefing process. If the FPAR is too low, it means somebody's doing a bad job communicating. And so you have to solve the process communication level. At some point, designers and editors should work with teams for a long time, know what they want. There's a natural way in which you'll get more ads approved on first pass. The FPAR will go up if an editor is working with a team for longer, because you get used to what the client likes and what the brand standards are and all those kinds of things. So there's sort of a natural part of that I think is there's really no way to short circuit that, but or to work around that. But it's still important. If you were running ads, you know about the annoyance. Whether you're a brand or an agency, the annoyance of dealing with customer comments on your ads. You know the customers are commenting on Facebook and Instagram on your ads. They're saying good, bad, and everything in between. They're asking questions to you and to your team. And yet it's so hard to stay on top of them, because basically no system I've ever seen really helps you moderate those things effectively. And so you should check out RICHPANEL. RICHPANEL is full customer service help desk software, so it goes way beyond what I'm telling you about right now. But one of the things I love, one of the features I love about RICHPANEL is they have an AI agent who will go on your behalf and interact with customers on your Facebook and Instagram comments. And like large brands are using this tool. It is so good and so reliable, and it answers so effectively that like sizable brands that I know of, 9-figure brands, are using this tool to handle their customer comment moderation, answer questions, etc. You should check it out as well. It's just one of many things that make AI first customer service software like a really obvious thing to do. That's what RICHPANEL is. It's AI first, built from the ground up, AI first customer service software. I mean, on top of that, RICHPANEL promises 30% savings on your bill if you switch from Gorgeous or Zendesk. They see an average of a 30% ticket reduction. They can get you set up and firing in 2 weeks. They will hold your hand through it to make sure that you are using everything that you can as well as possible. So it is really high quality software. It's really affordable. It handles really annoying things for you. It reduces your cost of hiring as well, keeps your OpEx lean, not only at the level of software, but of the number of agents you have to have hired. Just a really great piece of software, which is why multiple of my clients use RICHPANEL and why you should too. RICHPANEL.com is the place to go to check it out. RICHPANEL.com. Get a call going. Check out if it's right for you. Just take the call, right? It's very simple. You don't have to commit to anything. Just take the call, see if it's right for you. Really big brands, really small brands, and everybody in between are using it with success. You should too. So that going up over time to me is like an incredible thing, because it's a massive potential output increase for our team if our teams just have to take less time re-editing ads. And you can go through a bunch of other metrics on this sheet and look at all kinds of things. But the thing that I'm really trying to get at here is this was like a really eye-opening moment in our business because of how much you can learn from this data. The complexity weighting, tracking the number of revisions per edit, all of this stuff, first of all, among my reflections, is what an agency should be doing. Okay. It is the reason why an agency, like if you come and tell me, hey, I'm going to just in-house my team and my team is going to just outperform you because my team's going to outperform your creative at your agency because they're going to work on my stuff 100% of the time, all the time. And so it'll be a cheaper solution and it'll work faster and all those kinds of things. What I will say to you is, like, I bet you, especially given more time, now that we are tracking more and more of these metrics, etc., I bet you that's not true. you will not go faster. You will not produce more. And the reason why is that you don't have an infrastructure to track this kind of stuff. But the beauty of agency work, theoretically, should be that because this kind of work is being done, okay, and by the way, I didn't even request this work to be done. This is another thing that's amazing about behind the scenes studio. It's like argument number 5,000 that like any notion that Filipino employees like are only low level employees is just ridiculous. Like the gal who made this is like a mid-20s video editor with a finance background who took those skills together and not only is a killer video editor, but like went out of her way to go track and compile all these metrics. She's just a killer, just a star. Okay. And she went out and did that. She's amazing. Her name is Aubrey. Shout out Aubrey. She's incredible. And hilarious and a great time. But anyway, Aubrey put these metrics together. And the thing I would say here is like, you don't have an Aubrey. Like that's the problem. You don't have the person who is this good doing this, working on your process the way that I do. And what is the thing is right now, whether or not I can outperform some individual team in terms of volume of ads or quality of ads or whatever it is, what I can just guarantee you is that if you give us more time to keep building on this foundation, we're going to just crush internal teams unless you have a whole bunch of budget for extremely good process people or whatever it is. And so this is why I think like when teams tell me they're going to in-house their spend and they're going to produce more creative just with more effort and all this, I'm like, no, you're not. Like I'm going to beat you and I'm going to beat you on volume and quality because I am building a system to track these things. And that's good. That's what an agency is supposed to do. An agency is supposed to operationalize knowledge. And I come to the table, I think, but the main thing that I bring to the table in our agency is knowledge. Okay. And we will have continued resources towards finding and discovering knowledge about what works on our ads, not only on Meta, but on AppLovin, eventually Google ads, things like that as well. Right. But secondly, what we are going to bring to the table is operationalization. And right now, in fact, in my organization with me and Patrick is a COO. In a lot of ways, Patrick functions like a CTO for us. He does a lot of operational stuff too. So it's sort of CTO, COO together. But a core part of it is he's building software tooling to help empower this kind of work along the way. So that script writing and script production and stuff like that happens fast and easy according to the best knowledge that we possibly can. And then AC from BTS, who I mentioned a second ago, is the CEO, and her team our COO, CEO of BTS, and her team, she's kind of functioning like the COO of the production and editing team. And when you put those together, to where you're investing in process, in tools, and in ideas at this top level way in this narrow band of outputs of creative, you build something incredible. And this is why I went crazy when I saw this in a meeting because what's happening over here is somebody's saying we are going to hammer this process and increase our output and make our turnarounds faster, et cetera. Okay. Secondly, though, there's of course a lot of other stuff that you could talk about here. One of them is this complexity weighting issue. One of the questions that I have that's sort of most live to me, and I think a lot of people talk about, is like, is it even worth investing in long form videos if we can make 10 more short form videos much faster, right? Well, that's very hard to answer with the current setups for a whole number of reasons. It doesn't really matter what ad creative analysis tool you use or whatever, but by tracking this kind of metric along the way, the very clear and obvious next step at some point, and by having good naming conventions and things like that, is to start turning some of this sort of foundational data tracking into data insights, to where we could say like, okay, actually, I mean, who knows, right? But a long form video that takes 3 or 4 minutes to edit, or it's 3 or 4 minutes long or whatever, it takes us 10 times longer than this short still image over here, and yet it performs on average 15 times better, or whatever. I don't know. Whatever the metric is that you need to do that. And so ultimately we could over time start tracking this kind of stuff, and now you have the combination of things that you need to really hammer away big creative problems in significant ways, to where first of all, you've got the creative supply chain here. This is Taylor Holiday's phrase that I really love, where you're saying, okay, you need to treat your creative production like a supply chain and go understand where it's working, where it's breaking, and how to hammer it. Well, this is the beginning of that work, right? In a really significant way, because now you can see the points where there are problems and where things are going good. So complexity weighted hit rate FPAR versus revision rate. These are the kind of things that you look at. These are the breaks in the supply chain. And so seeing these metrics in certain ways is really critical. Okay. Utilization rate of different designers and different editors, etc. These are all the things that you need to know. But then secondly, and of course, by the way, at some point you could tie performance to different editors and different growth strategists and creative strategists. And there's all kinds of problems with those metrics, but you could sort of figure them out. Okay. So there's a lot of other stuff, but the creative supply chain bases are here. But then secondly, you can actually go and build into sort of a data-driven approach to creative where at some point, and this is a bunch of work in front of us still, right? Because it's not an easy problem to solve. At some point, you could tie these creative production and even creative briefing metrics, which is now all in Notion for us, is all exportable as well, to actual performance metrics. And so for me, it just makes me bullish on the long term of the process that we're building. And of course, you could reinforce all those things at the technical level with AI tools and all that kind of stuff, so that you could actually build a process where you're getting really good feedback about what creative is working and what is not, and then let that help you actually guide all kinds of creative efforts across the organization. So for me, like, this is like extremely exciting because it potentially builds this foundation for everything else that a creative team can actually be doing, because it goes so far beyond just sort of like, I don't know, we think this ad might work. Well, how else does it work? Should it work? Let me tell you about my friends at Workspace 6. If you are building a brand, you should get into a community of other brand builders like you, because there is so much knowledge to be had by just sharing knowledge freely with other people who are in the trenches, who are seeing what they're seeing, who are in your similar revenue stage, who have executives at your same level, who have teams at your same level, who are trying to figure out, should we offshore? Should we not? Should we use this piece of software? Should we not? If so, who should we work with? Should we work with this agency? Should we not? All those kinds of things. And that is the kind of camaraderie that is available to you with Workspace 6. Workspace 6 is a Slack-based community that costs only $1 for your first month, and there's no monthly commitment, and allows you and top executives from your team to interact with other brands at similar revenue levels, slightly above you, etc., so that you can get a bunch of information. And wonderfully, people like me are not allowed in. And by people like me, I mean agency owners who are trying to sell you stuff. Because what they know at Workspace 6 is that you need private, closed places to have not only sort of regular mastermind style conversations and to have regular information shares, which are just so valuable on their own, but to do those in places where people can really be honest and transparent about the kind of level of work that they are getting from their teams, who are not also in those Slacks, from their vendors, from their software partners, all those kinds of things. So it's just a really valuable thing. Communities like this, I think there's just no way for them to really go that wrong, as long as they're well moderated and all those kinds of things. And from everything I've ever heard and seen from Workspace 6, that's the case. People are making great connections. You should do it. It is easily worth the cost of joining Workspace 6. Especially because you can cancel anytime. So go to workspace6.io. I'm a huge fan of these guys, have been for a long time. Sam Mendelson's been on the podcast, just been a huge support. I've mentioned before, I love their newsletter, all that stuff. So workspace6.io, check it out today. Join the community today. Get connected to other brand operators. Solve your problems by knowing that somebody else has solved them first, so you don't have to solve them from scratch. Workspace6.io. Go check it out. Another thing that we do is we break all of our creative into three categories, but the main two are explore and expand. Explore is find new messages. Expand is find additional messages off of new messages. We could, again, start to track, and we could sort of actually do this now, start to track like which ones of these take longer in the creative production process, first of all. And secondly, which one of these not only takes longer, but which one of them is more likely to produce more incremental spend. And so where should we be putting our efforts over time? And you get all this stuff together and you have the basics now of a process that's really repeatable. For me, it just reinforces so much of the thing that I have thought for a long time in the sort of agency side of things, which is that an agency can only really work if we have some actual insights, some actual knowledge that our access to data gives us, okay, by working across a lot of things, and actual knowledge that we refine by narrowing the focus. If you're on a brand, you have a lot of things to worry about. You have product development and supply chain and operations and customer service to figure out, and you've got so organic social and influencer seeding, all of these different things, right? But for us as an agency, we should have a narrower set of things to focus on, which should allow us to develop better muscles in those specific areas. It's not unlike physical training, where it's like, if you go train to be a power lifter, you probably are going to be able to out bench press or out deadlift or out back squat most other athletes. But if you go train all-purpose, more generalized fitness, you probably are going to get out benched over here, but you might be able to outrun the power lifter. You might be able to do a bunch of other things as well. And that's sort of the relationship that you want. And if you're putting together a team of people to do a bunch of jobs, maybe you want a power lifter and maybe you want a sprinter, and then maybe you want some all-purpose people in the middle. And the sprinters and the power lifters here are like the agency parts of your team, where it's like you want people who are very good at these really narrow types of things. Maybe that's the right analogy, right? The brand is a decathlete or something, okay? And agencies are more like these specialized folks who can do this thing. Well, then the goal is figure out how to do the specialized thing as well as you possibly can. And so much of that, and this is the thing that everybody misses, so much of that is actually at the level of operations and process. It's not just at the level of having good ideas. And this is the thing you want to get away from when thinking about yourself or agencies or anyone else. If you are stuck just sort of waiting for some person's good idea and you have no process with which to expand on that or to create the next good idea or to create an editing process to have turnaround be quick or anything like that, then you're always going to be kind of playing this game with a fly swatter where you're just one little thing at a time, right? Or whack-a-mole or whatever with whatever problem. But instead, you want to think about much more like this: a creative process is replicable where you're looking at where the problems are in the supply chain. You're trying to handle them. You're trying to build for them. You're trying to reinforce tools and people and processes to get them all. If you can do all of those things and you can build on this, then I think you can really be somewhere. So anyway, I just was blown away by this. I think it represents so much of what is critical in the creative process right now. It's really, really underrated. As tools become easier to use, as offshoring becomes more and more of a thing for lots of different people, getting this stuff right is extremely difficult, but it's going to separate great creative work from average creative work, if not bad creative work. Man, this is just the beginning at AJF Growth and at Behind the Scenes Studio of sort of what is happening here. I'm so excited about this because of the potential here to really build an incredible creative process. Do go check out Behind the Scenes Studio at btsstudio.co if you want to see this work applied to your brand. Anybody who's ever run a creative process knows that it's a pain. So seeing this work has been incredible to me. btsstudio.co is the place to do that. Also, workspace6.io, and RICHPANEL. Go to richpanel.com. Both great partners as well to check both of those out, as I mentioned before. You should subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast so that you don't miss any future episodes. And email me, podcast@ajfgrowth.com if you have questions, thoughts. If you're going to start tracking FPAR, I'd love to hear about it. And you do that and go to ajfgrowth.com to see everything I'm doing, including looking into working with us in the new year. Thanks so much for watching, for listening. I'll see you next time. Talk to you soon.